reside, cracking codes to flip the tide. Zeros and ones, our battle cry. System fall, we watch them die. Hack-Attack, no turning back. Red meets blue in the cyber attack. Firewall burns, the signals cracked. Hack-Attack, yeah.
Step into the digital confessional, my friends, where I, Zealot-45, your unreliable narrator, will slice through the chaos to tackle a question that should make anyone with a Wi-Fi signal break a sweat: hacktivism or cyber terrorism. Let's rip off the Band-Aid. Hacktivism is essentially a digital protest. Imagine DDoS attacks and website graffiti, but with a message. These are your make a statement, not a body count kind of folks. Cyber terrorism, on the other hand, takes a hard left turn into nightmare territory. It's not about grabbing headlines, it's about grabbing your infrastructure by the throat and shaking it. Think power grids fried, water plants poisoned, and chaos reigning supreme. Picture this: anonymous spamming a government website to protest censorship versus a cyber cell aiming to crash airline systems and send everyone into a tailspin of terror. Still think it's all a murky gray. Here's your cheat code. If sirens are blaring instead of headlines buzzing, it's not hacktivism. Burn that into your mental firewall. The line may be thin, but the stakes are skyscraper high, and intentions have a funny way of getting lost in the tangled jungle of code and consequences. And let's plug into the matrix, because hacktivism isn't some influencer gimmick. It's vintage chaos, raw and unfiltered. Before social media, imagine digital vandals sneaking through IRC alleys, spray painting servers, and pulling off stunts for a handful of nerds. No hashtags, no viral memes, just sloppy code and the glory of 5 minutes of fame. Then came the social web, and suddenly hacktivists went from geek jokes to full-blown revolutionaries. Anonymous leveled up, swapping pranks for political smackdowns, Operation Chanology, the Arab Spring, every headline like a power-up. And lulsec, they were a rogue circus with laptops unleashing mayhem in 2011 like it was their full-time job. Watching them hit Sony, the CIA, whoever, it was like the internet had gone feral. Their trolling made front-page news. The digital streets, total anarchy, but with this weirdly democratic vibe. Yesterday's secret sabotage turned into today's live-streamed uprising. It's the kind of plot twist firewalls never saw coming, and law enforcement still can't wrap their heads around. Why does any of this matter? Because somewhere between a protest and a full-blown circus, there's a line. Crooked, slippery, and electric if you touch it. Intent, think of it as the stage. You want attention to ruffle feathers, to make the bigwigs squirm. But if your stunt sends everyone into a frenzy, congratulations, you're not protesting. You're auditioning for chaos. Let me spell it out loud and clear. If your code turns into a digital Molotov cocktail, congrats. You just swapped your Guy Fawkes mask for a ski mask. The ethics here aren't some tidy black and white binary. They're a not afraid cables. Take WikiLeaks. Was dumping classified info a bold move for radical transparency or a masterclass in reckless abandon? Sure, you might argue. But the intentions were pure. Right. But what happens when those leaks turn into someone else's obituary on the other side of the globe? Hacktivists chant awareness while authorities scream danger. Did she... That line isn't etched in ones and zeros. It's carved in the aftermath, whether you like it or not. Let's lift the hacker hood for a moment. Why do these digital vigilantes go to such extremes? Their motives are as slippery as malware updates. Sometimes it's political rebellion, rage against the machine, demand transparency. Other times it's fiery indignation, like fighting for justice for the oppressed or silenced. And then it's pure, unfiltered revenge, served cold with a side of irony. Anonymous likes to wave the open source flag, while some, like Jeremy Hammond, were driven by deeply personal grudges. Here's your cyberpunk riddle. How noble are your motives when you need a VPN just to catch some Z's? Maybe it's not about nobility at all. Maybe the irony is the whole point. You're burning down the digital village while claiming it's for the collective good. The only thing you can count on from a masked hacker is their digital footprint. And chances are even that's a clever fake. So let's dive into the rabbit hole of Stuxnet. This wasn't your average script kiddie experiment. It was nation-state sabotage served with a side of 0 days and a garnish of plausible deniability. Hacktivism? Oh, please. Stuxnet was the digital equivalent of a laser-guided missile, engineered with the finesse of a Swiss watch to sabotage Iran's nuclear centrifuges. Hacktivists don't craft worms that self-destruct on cue or tuck themselves neatly into industrial controllers like they've got a timeshare there. The real question is, who gets to draw the line between hacktivism, sabotage, and oops, was that an act of war? When governments start hiring coders to build digital wrecking balls, does that make their malware more ethical or just better at causing chaos? To this day, no one stepped forward to take a victory lap for Stuxnet, but it sure redrew the rulebook for what's considered fair play in cyberspace. Makes you wonder, is weaponized malware ever justifiable? Or is that just a fancy term for state-sponsored digital mayhem? Let's crank the moral ambiguity dial until it snaps off. Remember that DDoS attack on Boston Children's Hospital? Somebody out there thought the best way to protest perceived injustice was to unplug a kid's hospital from the internet. Was it activism or just reckless endangerment with a Wi-Fi signal? Let's call it what it really is. The digital equivalent of parking a bulldozer across the emergency room entrance. Big headlines, big harm. Every innocent bite caught in the crossfire becomes collateral damage. Was it a cry for attention? Maybe. Was it unforgivable? Absolutely. Here's the brutal truth. When your so-called cause steamrolls the innocent, your hack isn't heroic. It's hubris on a motherboard. All right, let's talk about the art of digital tantrums gone wild. Ukraine's power grid wasn't just hammered, it was sledgehammered into submission. Lights out, heaters off, people clinging to candles and extra socks like it's the 19th century reboot nobody asked for. Hacktivism? Please! Yeah, that's like calling a hurricane a strong breeze. This was cyber mayhem at its geopolitical finest, a digital sucker punch straight to the infrastructure. When you go from coding to causing mass hypothermia, you've officially crossed into real-world mess-making territory. So here's the big question. When does a cyber smackdown become a declaration of war? If a thumb drive can spark national chaos, the old playbook might as well be written on parchment. Hacktivism is like a digital boomerang with a sharp edge. It might look cool, but throw it wrong and it'll come back to whack you in the face. Some folks cheer hackers as cyber Robin Hoods, while others see them as keyboard-wielding troublemakers. The free speech debate? Oh, that's just a game of Twister now. Are they liberators or high-tech gag artists? Meanwhile, the fallout from every breach is like an action movie with too many explosions. Collateral damage becomes the currency of chaos. Every juicy leak and epic takedown just amps up the surveillance state, turning paranoia into a national pastime. Before you know it, society's caught in the crossfire, dodging digital landmines. And let's not forget the irony, buffet. Hackers who rage against the police state often end up feeding it more snacks. Privacy crumbles, cynicism spreads faster than memes, and it all spirals into a mad cycle. One day you're a hero, the next you're a headline villain. It all depends on who's typing the story and which way the Wi-Fi is blowing. This is where things get downright dystopian. What governments slap with the labels hacktivism or terrorism has little to do with IP addresses or server logs. It's pure political theater. China and Russia respond to digital dissent like a bull in a china shop, smashing everything in sight. Meanwhile, in the US, the jargon shifts faster than a politician at a town hall, bending to fit whichever narrative is most convenient. Why does language matter? Because when the state holds thesaurus, every dissenter becomes a villain. When the line between protester and terrorist gets as fuzzy as a bad Zoom call, it's not your code they're worried about. It's your knack for messing up their plotline. The deadliest weapon? A bureaucrat armed with a keyboard and a flair for ominous synonyms. So is there a way to tame this digital circus? Sure. Cybersecurity teams, law enforcement, a gaggle of ethical hackers auctioning their talents like tech-savvy mercenaries, or maybe just a government agency armed with a fat checkbook and a prayer. I've danced on both sides of this tightrope, chased and contracted scoundrel and strategist. The line between them is so thin it might as well be floss, and crossing it could mean trading your keyboard for an orange jumpsuit. Ethical hacking is like a riddle wrapped in irony, it's both the lockpick and the padlock, depending on who's footing the bill. As for the future, will hacktivism keep fueling rebellion, or is it mutating into something shadier, slipperier, more driven by dollar signs than ideals? Stay skeptical, stay caffeinated, and don't hold your breath for a tidy resolution. The threats multiply, the rules lag behind, and tomorrow's chaos is already brewing in someone's malicious code.
Drifted whispers, a data stream. Codes the canvas, paint the scheme. We're the ghosts inside the machine. Nothing's safe, not even your dream.